Great.
Thank you. Please go on.
Okay, so once you have signed up for Discord, you may be approached with this kind of window, and it's a quite a simple setup. You have on the left-hand side, you've got this, your servers will be lined up down here. This is where your friends are, and on this other side here, you'll have other information. So to start a server, create your own. If you're a club, community is what you are. Let's call it Museum of Care Test. Maybe you want an image of some sort. I don't know. Maybe there's something weird. Great. Okay, so you will now have this server. So this is where you would have your like kind of main body of work. And within these channels here on the left side, you could then create work groups, you could create spaces for drawing within, you could create, you know, mutual aid groups, whatever. So within these channels you have here, so you could edit this and say like, maybe say this is like welcome info or something. And you just have your general, and then for example, you'd create another category here. So this arrow at the top, create a category, and then you'd be, let's say like, I don't know, workspaces. And then because I'm here in London, maybe let's call ourselves a London workspace. Great. And you can continue, you can make, I don't know how many limited, maybe 50 or something like that. But let's just create another one. I don't know. Oh my gosh, why not? I was reading about that earlier. So there we are. So we have this. And within these kind of spaces, you can post as any forum. Hello. You can post images. So maybe I'll post an image. It's super simple, just click the thing. Maybe this one of Samir that I was reading through one of your museum proposals earlier. So it's quite simple. So like, have you read this yet? Quite simple. Upload that, and then it'll kind of come up as an image. The other thing that's good and bad is when you do this, you kind of, for example, if you want to share, what is it? The entire document, it does have come up as a document which you then have to download, and that's really good because it means that people actually have the communication, and so that works really well, I would say. So what else are we doing? Ah, yes. So for example, I know some we were talking about maybe there's some way of sort of like using this as a platform for communicating with other platforms in which to do other things. For example, you may want to connect it to a drawing board or something like that, like you've got a workspace. So I've actually set one up here. So I'm going to copy this in. It's for Miro. Maybe some of you have used it, maybe you have no idea. But it's an external platform, not involved in Discord, but it's how you could maybe use Discord as the kind of medium between the other. So you'd post a link and be like, hey, join me for drawing or whatever. Then people could join in because you could see who was online. You need to click through, and then you've got your great, once it loads, anarchy symbol, you can draw other stuff, you can write text, you can draw arrows, do whatever the hell you want. Does that make sense so far? I hope. Do jump in if any questions if you have anything diving. Otherwise
I thought we might wait till you finish, Greg, and then deal with questions if that's okay. It's just, it'll be much easier for you to do your thing and then answer the questions.
Great. Yeah, I'll carry on then. So like you said, you've got this. And again, likewise, you can post to Mozilla hubs. I know John mentioned there may be some interesting in maybe connecting through VR spaces and AR spaces. Like there's one by Mozilla hubs, which is like obviously open source, and can have like 50 people, I think, in one space at a time. So this link, maybe I could post it there and then you can all join it if you want. So we'll set it up. So Museum of Care Test by Mozilla. So you literally just click this. It's like open, anybody can join it. I don't think you have to sign up. It'll ask you to join in. And then you can be in this space. You can also join within there once it's loaded. And entering the lobby. So Museum of Care, nobody's here because it's just me, but you can have a look around. There would be people there. Then you can enter the room. This is potentially quite interesting for this. Grant, Mike, yeah, okay, okay. Wow, that's interesting. But, and so in this space as well, you can actually draw on the walls, which is kind of fun, you know, or post images and stuff. Yeah, but otherwise you can see, you can move around like a sort of 1990s video game, which is quite fun. So essentially, this is kind of how the kind of some things you could do with it. Obviously, I know this is quite a weird introduction to it, so I also thought I would just quickly show you what they can look like after you put some work into them. Actually, one more thing, what I've just noticed there, you have this thing called a voice channel, which you can see here. And once you click them, you actually go immediately online and you can speak to people in there. So you can see that I'm in here. And so if other people are in here, you would just immediately be able to chat to them. So you can kind of permanently be online to chat, much more like a sort of open door room or space in which you would have in a physical world. So yeah, you can join that, and you can also do video, you can share your screen. So that's something you can do. But I thought I'd just quickly show you what other Discords look like. They look like this. This is memes. This is a record label in LA, which I, for some reason, have a Discord link to, but that is. There's this other one, this alternative online music festival that's starting this weekend in Berlin, CTM Festival, like Counterculture Club, which is really interesting. And they're like sort of just introduce themselves. As you can see on the right-hand side, you've got, this is who's online and this is who's part of the servers. So each server has its own people and group. It's not, each one of these things on the left-hand side are just individual. So you'd have to create multiple ones, if that makes sense. So Museum of Care could be one, and then within that you'd have different channels in which you would use to communicate through and post your content. So you'd have each groups, but then again, you could have other unique location for a server, but you'd have to join it separately, and you have links to sharing that. So for example, if you want to, you have to go to one of my ones, which are one of my, this test one again. So like I can invite people here. So I'd right click it and click invite people and invite friends to test here. So there's a really weird thing with it, which you have to just ensure that you post this. Actually, it's not here anymore. I don't know. Anyway, so you'd essentially invite people to do that, or you can share the link to it, which is, where is it somewhere? Invite people. So here, so invite friends to test, the server name would be here. And you could go edit the invite link, because otherwise it expires after a certain amount of time, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 6 hours, 12. So for example, if you're doing symposium, you could do it just for the symposium. Or if you want it forever, it's the same link for everybody forever. You just click never. Maximum of users. I don't know why you want that, but generate a new link. And so this unique link here, you would then copy that and post that onto the bottom of your email or your Zoom link or on your website or wherever. And that's how public Discord are shared. I think that's kind of it. I'm going to stop sharing, but do feel free if I need to share again to go through it, or if you'd like any other points or questions or have anything. But maybe you will know that, maybe you didn't, but maybe, yeah, do feel free to ask any questions. Of course, Nika?
Yeah, so if I understood correctly, we can, speaking about the project of Mariana Samir, we can put the gallery, let's say artwork galleries in the first screen, and then we can link it back to the page of the project of Museum of K and make it a simple presentation on one of the pages. And as well, we can do this 3D kind of conference chat, yeah? Like when people will just, maybe that's what surprise for me. Can you tell a little bit about this kind of 3D?
So that's not Discord itself. That's like another thing, Mozilla Hubs, just to confirm that, maybe you're aware. And but that, I think that space, I think, is permanent. I think you'd need to experiment with that, like how long that stays. But the idea is that they are like virtual workspaces in which you can put stuff on those digital walls and then you can kind of communicate. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how long they stay for. So I don't know if they'd be a permanent online gallery. I guess that is something you'd have to look into, but they're definitely really good for sort of like workspacing ideas, and you can kind of see other people moving within a space. It does feel more interactive than, I guess, sitting in front of a Zoom screen like we're doing now. It's a different way, but I think it's definitely good for like sort of whiteboarding and stuff. The same with Miro as well. Like you can kind of much more, Miros are permanent. I know that. So you can like, you know, bring lots of interesting ideas together, and they're more like a sort of a whiteboard space.
Yeah, so if we come back to this project of Mariana, I don't know if she's here and she has questions, but so I imagine we are going to do a community kind of preparation in Discord, and then we have 2 or 3 different options of how to organize event. It could be an exhibition in 3-dimensional space that later could disappear. It could be also permanent small presentation in Museum of Care or something else if we will find. Yeah, so that's and it's so looks like very easy to do as you show, and we have recording now, so that's great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, John. Yeah.
So one question that has come up previously, Greg, is the notion of ownership of a server or a channel, and to what extent someone that you invite to a channel, workspace, server project, however you want to call your new space, is able to delete everything, take control, offend everyone, and do bad things. And if they're not, how is that prevented? And if they are, how is that prevented?
Yeah, thanks. It's a good question, actually. So you have to create, which I didn't actually go through because it's a bit more long-winded, but I just wanted to show you the outline of how to use Discord. But the thing called bots, which basically these sort of like really simple artificial intelligence things, which basically do really boring things like if you log in, you get assigned a role, which is like you are admin, or you are not admin, or you are a visitor. And so you have these 3 different kind of categories, for example, or 5 categories, or however many, and it would assign you depending on how you arrived in there. So like you may be like, hey, I arrived there, so you're a visitor. And then, for example, you recognize them and you're one of the core team that always attends on a Friday, and you go, oh, great, yeah, that's you. And then somebody at the begin with does have to assign people admin roles. But for example, you could have 20 admins and then actually anybody else is just a visitor, or 50 admins and then everyone else is a visitor. But if you do give them admin rights, anybody with those admin rights can, like John says, delete it, or delete servers, or make new server, not delete, sorry, the server is the entire workspace or the entire space, and then the workspaces and channels are within that. So somebody else could delete them and then actually ultimately delete the whole server. But I think the idea is if you're an open and sharing group of people, that you would actually, if there's 20 admins, then no one's going to actually delete it without speaking to one another. But yes, of course they could, but that's why you'd assign them a role, which would have limited or less, like they basically, you could assign it and basically they could do everything apart from delete it. That's one of the roles. You can do everything. You can change names.
Next question would be this relationship between server and channel. A channel can be called anything, obviously. It can be called a project. It can be called a workspace. It can be called whatever you want to call it. In what instance would you have multiple servers? This is a question that has come up a few times as well.
I guess it would be predominantly, I would argue that it would be to manage what information is where. So for example, you could be like, here's the what we want to be the very public one, and then you'd have the team or group of people who may be managing something, or maybe who are the ones that are deciding how and which that's coming about, or the idea. So I guess that would be the instance, because otherwise it can get messy because you have to join separate servers. If you join one, there's no way to join the other. So the only reason to have more than one is to completely limit access Does that make sense? So that's the only instance really. Otherwise, you may as well just have one server and then everyone's admin apart from who isn't, and then they can just read everything and post and engage and speak to one another and join the voice chats and whatever. Great. Yeah. Hi, yes.
Hey, Greg. So I think I had a very similar question, which is, so you know how within a server, I think, like a server is a very easy place to access multiple channels because all you need is like the link to the server and then all the channels are within it. Can you do the same between different servers? Is there a way to do that? So, if like say there's 10 different servers, and is there a way to create like one single link to access all 10 of them, or is that something we'll have to do manually?
No, unfortunately, not to my knowledge. There might be a bot that may be able to like auto add you. For example, like you could join it and then it'd be like, because you've joined this one, it auto adds you to these 5 or 6 or whatever. Like, but I don't know that. I'm sorry, I can't answer it. But you could, of course, post it like, hi, welcome to our main server, you could call it, and then the main museum server. And then you could be like, please join our separate servers for groups that interest you. And then you could have a separate for, let's just again use London and Lagos as examples. You could join the London server and then the Lagos server. But you would always have your main server where all the posts were posted. The problem being is that you can't cross notify. For example, the London server wouldn't be able to notify the main server. Does that make sense? So you would have to go to the main server and post it, ensure and hope that everyone's got the notification on, for example. Does that make sense? I guess there is just, yeah, yes, but.
Yeah, got it. So there's a human element.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks,
So
TJ. I think we're approaching the end of our time.
I can answer the question about the bots.
Ah, nice. Thanks.
I posted a link in there to a popular bot that fulfills this function. If there is a committed, well, most of it runs itself after you set it up. But if on the initial setup, if there's a committed group of administrators that set these things up, you can create a variety of what they call roles, which can be assigned to users. And so if you want to subscribe or unsubscribe to certain channels, then you can do that by configuring this sort of thing. The notifications part of it, that's going to be that like one big thing that many folks don't realize is the notifications part is entirely configurable and very much up to individuals. So it's not going to matter for me. I'm not going to get any of those notifications because I very aggressively silence notifications. But it is also configurable. Like there's I'll say community practices around building new Discords, where many will standardize on the minimize a certain number of automatic notifications.
Yeah, thanks, DVD. Yeah, that's the notification is something that I didn't touch on, but that's really important because you can get excruciating because every time if you don't turn it off, for example, every single line anyone posts, you can get a notification for it. So you can have like 50 notifications within 2 minutes if you don't silence it. But you can manage that as from the server side of it, like DVD says.
Hey.
Oh yeah, and Carlbot that I linked there is particularly useful for someone who wants to administer a server.
Great, thanks. And like me too, I think as well.
Is it complicated to administer a server? Is it a big job?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I said that.
How hard is to administrate a server in Discord? Is it a complicated task?
Having an I'm sorry, Greg.
No, go ahead.
So I would say that having developing an understanding of the model of permissions, which can be quite flexible, and roles and channels, it's not impossible to understand and figure out. I would like ask Claire about maybe how was setting up Glass Frog the first time for like, do we have stories about that? Like once you start using it, it's pretty much set up. There are teenagers using it very in very sophisticated ways to do things like monitor police scanners and distribute information to like there's a lot of expertise out there, depending on who you're talking to. But if there's all sorts of communication systems like mailing lists. There's all sorts of tools out there that have where they're easy to start with, but then there may be a variety of degrees of features that like are power user features. Like if you don't know about Carlbot, then a lot of the stuff that some people consider standard and easy is out of reach.
Mhm.
And also, just to add just something on the kind of linguistics of Discord, there is a lot of like esoteric language in it, like bots, servers, channels. Like these, they are terms which they are like the terms they use, but they're not specific, and they have the language of the like bot of like Discord is also something just to try and get your head around, just because they use words that you could use other words that are more normalized, but they did decide when they constructed the system to use very esoteric words.
All right. Thank you very much. We can definitely do more training sessions, I hope, if you'd like to help us in the future on Discord. And now we can go to our next topic, which is Eric would like to present about fundraising on a future room in the Museum of Care. Are you there, Eric? I see Elizabeth and a foot.
Hold on, here we are. Right. Oh, do you want me to?
I started just trying to get in the screen with the backdrop. So I'll make it short. I'm curious what questions folks have, but from my conversations with TJ, Elizabeth, and Nika, part of the goal with the fundraising room in the Museum of Care is to help support people and think through how we can provide financial support to the different artists and projects and programs through community. And so one of the ways that I learned to talk about this and I share with folks is a quote by a gentleman named Hank Rosso, who defined fundraising as the gentle art of teaching the joy of giving. And that's something I really believe in practice and understanding, that it is an art, that it is a joy to be able to give when we can and when we choose to support these different projects. And also, without going too far off the philosophical diving board here, understanding that one of the myths of capitalism is scarcity. And so being able to name that and operate either alongside or outside of that to provide mutual aid, and in some forms and oftentimes that's financial. So whether hypothetical off the top of my head of what I've learned quickly from the community would be, for example, for like Gabby's project in Brazil, she's connected with some folks there doing some land take back who need some financial support. So the fundraising room, potentially you could have a conversation about just kind of the back end of what would be needed to be able to expand that reach so folks can joyfully give from the United States as well as UK, in addition to whatever hurdles that may need to be overcome to be able to do so directly to Brazil. So curious if anybody has any thoughts, questions, suggestions.
Nika, you have your finger up?
Yeah, I just, I'm sorry. Can I just comment on the general idea of fundraising room, or we're just concretely talking about this fundraising program? I just, yeah.
I would say please speak to the room. It's a new concept and I'd love to hear other ideas and suggestions.
Yeah, we just figure out that the main room in any museum now is a fundraising room, but it's also turn museum into the institution, and that's what we decided not to do in a fixed institution. But in the same time, if we have a fundraising room inside of the museum, that's more like organized fundraising as art concept, because I understood, Eric, that you're doing fundraising professionally for 15 years, but you have a lot of hesitation about what you actually have to face while fundraising because of the circumstances of our political and economic system. But for example, in this room, we will be free of that. So we can imagine ideal fundraising, or, you know, fundraising in a hell or like whatever. So that's, yeah. So that's good.
Yeah, I think that's, Nika, I think that's the power of this vision and what's being created through the Museum of Care is new forms, new ideas of and new or existing lenses applied to current framework to increase freedom and expression. And so what are the resources and skills we can have and share to be in service of that and not get caught up in the bureaucracy, but really empower and support people to do the creative and social work that we all know needs to be done in our world now more than ever. You have a question?
I was, if people are interested, I mean, I can share a little bit. I mean, as my partner, Eric's obviously been a really great fundraising coach with various projects here in San Francisco over the years. And if people are interested, I can share a little bit, depending on time, about our sort of the way our free school IAFS has sort of navigated our development as an organization and kind of the decisions that we've made with respect to finance and fundraising. You are nodding. Yeah. Okay. I don't have a good sense of the time, but so our free school emerged when the institution that we had shared, which was a nonprofit fine arts college, kicked everybody out because they ran out of money in the middle of a pandemic. And when we started to organize as our free school community, you know, a lot of people in the community are just drawing upon the models of organization that they're familiar with, right? So very early on was the question of whether or not we should incorporate as our own 501c3 nonprofit, because for people who are, you know, just sort of casually familiar with the way these things work, right? It seems like, and it sounds like that's the way you get money from people without having to like work, right? People, like if you're a 501c3, Bill Gates is going to give you $1 million. That's, I think, kind of like the scope of things that people are working with, and not knowing that, like, kind of under the hood, the way 501c3s work as agents of capitalism, right? These were formed by capitalists to find new ways of creating influence and reputation that looks really good, but facilitates their ability to continue to be exploiters of resources and labor. So I mean, which isn't to say that 501c3s don't do good work, but understanding that the culture and the structures of 501c3s are built on very traditional relationships with capitalists, philanthropists.
Witness.
And so there's the culture of philanthropy is hard work. Like, rich people want to be spoken to in very specific ways. And when you're doing very committed anti-capitalist work, it turns into like a whole song and dance that in the end, and I think this is kind of sorry, I'm ranting a little bit, but like the time that what they will do is they will just exhaust the donation of time and attention that good people bring to philanthropic work with their ability to waste everyone's time because they can. They're not in a hurry for anything. They've already got all the money. So so I was very reluctant for us to become a 501c3 for those reasons, because once you do that, then you're committing yourself to doing very traditional forms of fundraising, which is really hard work. So there are layers of alternatives below that. I just spoke with Nika and TJ a little bit about fiscal sponsorship, where a 501c3 can become like your umbrella. And if you find a good relationship with a nonprofit you can sort of glean their tax status and receive tax deductible donations without having to become a nonprofit yourself. What we decided to do as a free school, this former students of the school were so angry with the violent way that they had been treated by their institution that they didn't even want to hear the word philanthropy or fundraising, to be honest. And because they had engaged in mutual aid when they had been kicked out of their school, we decided that we would just kind of, as artists, explore mutual aid as the primary form of exchange in our community. And so we just don't spend a lot of money. We have them, there are certain forms of infrastructure that we require, like like Zoom and web hosting, but that's it. And the beauty of it, right, is that the less, and then we figure out how to get the other things we need without money. And that's been a very beautiful process. And the less money we need, the less time we spend talking about money, and the less energy we invest in securing access to the box of gold that is the money, which is, to be free of that has been like just really, truly beautiful. And so just what I loved about Gabby's email the other day was just this, like, here it was, right? Like, here's an opportunity for direct giving, which is how we fund things in our school. So somebody will say, we need to host a video on Vimeo, and it's $7 a month. And then we just, and maybe one person will be like, I think I can cover it, but maybe other people can help. And then you just give the people the money. So it requires a high level of trust in a community, but that's also the reward, right, of being in a trustworthy community. So that's it. End of rant.
Gabby has her finger up.
Hey, yeah, very quick updates on the MST fund crowdfunding situation. It's yeah, so I talked to the website's people and they said they can solve it. The people who want to donate, they just have to have an account on the website and then tell me when they have done it. And then, yeah, but I think we should do it on Monday. Yeah, so I'll contact you all about it. And yeah, on Monday, because now it's the weekend, so they won't be answering.
All right, does anyone have any questions, or Eric or Elizabeth, would you like to say any more?
Thanks, TJ. I'll just like to, the closing comment in case other folks have questions and be respectful of time. Also, to Elizabeth's point, and what I'm hearing here is just to like re-emphasize the importance here of like the meaning of the term philanthropy means for the love of humankind, right? So there's something there within love, within care that we want to be keep with us and take, and then really rely heavily on trust, because that's what all these other systems and bureaucracies and Excel sheets are designed, reports are designed to mitigate and to get between us and between our ability to build meaningful relationships and to build trust and to directly support the work like Gabby's brought to our attention. So I just wanted to share those two comments. Thanks, TJ.
Well, thank you very much. This is very glad to hear all this. Now, speaking of this, Hariv, who made the room about Samir that Paul helped. Oh, I'm sorry, DVD. Do you have, David, would you like to speak?
Well, yeah, I did want to ask Eric and Elizabeth if they have specific experience with schools and online libraries. One of the things I miss most about college is being able to just be on the library system and read any academic paper anywhere. And maybe that's not, whatever kind of library it is, like do free schools have access to institutions that share material like that? Yeah, like Sci-Hub.
We haven't gotten that far as a free school community, like also because it was founded by artists. Like they want free concrete and plaster. But so, for example, right, it might be like, I mean, right, the anarchist to me would be like, do you want my login credentials for the library at the institution that I work at? And we can see how long it works until somebody says like, oh, that IP address is like not in the right place. But at this point, given the way higher education works, I could be anywhere, so you could be me.
That almost sounds like a cool room in itself if someone pays for that and we all kind of chip in monthly and share a log, like maybe not someone individual credentials that might have personal and account, blah, 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 but just something that we all kind of chip into monthly and get access to. That'd be kind of a net cool idea.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one. I mean, sorry, I'm super interested in cooperative infrastructures, and that's there are legal structures in some jurisdictions that are similar to, but not 501c3, that are like aligned toward exactly that kind of goal.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to jump in? You don't have to raise your finger. You can just like interrupt me at any moment if I'm going on to the next thing. So does anyone like to ask a question or say anything? All right, then Harav would like to talk a little bit about, oh, I'm sorry, Gabi, go ahead. Okay.
So as I understand, we're not going to fundraise for example, people who work in Museum of Care anymore, like Andre, right?
It's a question to me, probably. Yeah? No, we are not going to fundraise for the, we're not going to create institution in Museum of Care. I will pay myself to the, Andrea already did a lot of work, and TJ also participated in that. So we're kind of almost done with the new website, not yet. And I'm just going to pay somebody to help to maintain it. That's much more easy for me and much more up to you know, than all this endless discussion, because as we were talking for during a couple months, we were not able to accomplish, just make a website. So this website is supposed to be ready in the next, I don't know, week, hopefully. And then also Andre and Clive, basically it will be their art project. They will put it as a theme. So anybody who wants to do their own Museum of Care number 2, number 3, number 45, can just download the whole package and install it in their server. And that will be like the same design and the same idea, but they will need to create their own projects. So the projects is always belongs to the people who make them. For example, Eric will create his fundraising room, and then he decided to move from Museum of Care number 1 to the Museum of Care 25. Or like this, the art school become a Museum of Care as well. He just moved his project there. Maybe he will allow us to still have a link to his room, or maybe not. It depends. It's his decision. So, and that's how it will work for now. And it's not because so much already was done that, yeah, I hope it will be possible for me myself to pay for. It's not a lot of money, as Elizabeth was saying. It's easier to pay something instead of constantly discuss and fundraise and have like all the structures, you know. Yeah, it's doable. Yeah, so that's and then we eliminate all discussions about the structures, but we go ahead and do the something practical, like for example, Herif wanted to discuss project for Museum of Care that I think very much in line with what Gabi proposed, but it's more require more artistic input as well as requires somebody who can help you maybe to set up the room in Discord. I don't know how, it looks very easy, but still it's even more fun to do it with somebody else. So I personally, for this project with Samir, I will draw the drawings to make a virtual exhibition, as well as I will invite other artists and then kind of hope they will join me. So we will have a kind of artistic input for that project, and hopefully it will be helpful for for them. But maybe Harif will tell a little bit about who is that guy and why it makes sense to support the event.
Okay. Can you hear me, guys?
Hear you
Okay,
fine.
great. Okay, so in the chat you can find the PDF which we have been referring to. It for the project, which is called Samir Vive. It's basically a celebration of the life of Samir Flores, who was murdered on February 20 of 2019. He was an indigenous rights activist, a journalist, environmentalist, political activist, and land defender. And he was murdered in the early hours of February 20. And his community is still seeking answers and continues his fight. And on October 2020, the Subcomandante Insurgente Moises sent a communique in which they stated that we would like, I'm quoting, we make a special invitation to the communities who hold up the name, image, and blood of our brother Samir Flores Soberanes, so that their pain, rage, struggle, and resistance travels far. We invite those who hold the arts and sciences as their vocation, endeavor, and horizon to accompany our journey from a distance and help us spread the idea that in the sciences and arts lie not only the possibility of the survival of humanity, but that of the birth of a new world. So following this invitation, I think we've been brainstorming, a few of us, and consider the possibility of making the Museum of Care part of this mission, and express our solidarity with the people of Almisingo and the international, just to make sure that they know the international community is watching, and that we want them to know that they're not alone, that the life and trajectory and fight of Samir won't be forgotten, and that his political murder cannot be continued to be swept under the rug. So we consider the possibility of creating, I mean, I'm originally from Mexico, and we have a tradition that actually predates colonialism, and it's that of the Altar de Muertos. And I'm sure some of you guys know of I mean, there are multiple cultural references to it, and it's an ofrenda, and in certain cultures, I'm aware that death has a pretty complex connotation, but in my culture, it's about celebrating the life and the trajectory and the remembering the meaning of the person that we lost. And so that's basically in the vein of the project. I mean, to provide and submit with this in thought, in consideration, different kinds of artwork, or it could be writing. I mean, I know that there are like multidisciplinary artists here, and like incredible writers, and like very talented musicians. So the format and the medium is open. It's just, you know, that it demonstrates the support for his fight. And I mean, basically, ideally we would have the submissions ready before the anniversary of his death, to commemorate and to bring his name back into the conversation, into the headlines, into.
Thank you very much. That was very gripping. And when I heard about your project, I was so amazed. So yes, let's go on to then the collective documentary project, or room, a short introduction by Nika and Anka. Would you like to go ahead?
I just wanted to quickly say that maybe, because we cannot discuss now the possibilities, I have an ideas about this project, Samir, but maybe we can make one trend, email trend in Museum of Care list where everybody who want to say something, I hope some people want to contribute to the idea of how to develop that, we can do it via email. Because I think we can, like with this 3D room that I saw, I have like a bunch of ideas what we can do for the presentation, like, you know, because the major things is to draw media attention to Samir, yeah, and to event. But maybe we can do it on email if and I'm inviting everybody to help as much as possible.
So maybe, is it okay to speak now about the collective documentary?
Yes.
So we started initially with having this group dynamics mail list where we were talking about how we're going to take decisions in for the Museum of Care. And that evolved slowly into this idea of doing actually a documentary, a collective documentary, where we interview different people from different contexts about how they take collective decisions. So instead of us talking about, you know, doing work ourselves directly without thinking too much about decisions, but in the same time reflecting and maybe taking lessons from others. And yeah, the first, I will actually post it on the chat. The first interview was with Gabriela Cabana, who is a PhD student in anthropology, and she talked about the uprising in Chile. And it was really good. I'll just share it with you. Actually, I'll share it after because I cannot speak in the same time. And then Claire, who's here, talked about the decision-making process in Extinction Rebellion. And I've just uploaded this interview with her as well. So I'll post both links. So yeah, we ended up actually doing collective interviews. So we announce whenever we have someone else, people can start announcing themselves. Whoever wants to interview someone, let us know. Maybe we want to, if you want us to participate in the interview or do the interview yourselves, it's all up to you, really. The only thing is when you upload it on your own YouTube account, just use the hashtag Museum of Care, decision making, and another hashtag, maybe collective documentary. The most important hashtag is Museum of Care. So that maybe at some point we collect all this footage and we put it together, or we just leave it as a series of interviews. And yeah, we've got some, at the moment with Nika, we are talking about who else to interview. Nika proposed having someone from Iceland talking about their digital democracy project model. I was thinking someone from the crypto world to think about how they operate. And someone, I don't know if, is anyone here called Thomas? So anyway, someone from Portugal just emailed and he said he wants to interview his friends. They are all students and they want to talk about how they take decisions together as a group. So basically it's all very open. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of this project is it could be also a model for how you can make a collective projects without bureaucracy and also without restrictions. Because one of the things that is always problematic is when people trying to come up together to the kind of solution and to common decision, and they the first things they do, they're not allowing somebody else to do something. That was the beauty of Carnival, where anybody can do whatever they want. And it was so many carnivals, with 250, that actually I never saw all of them because it would be too much time. So I didn't care if somebody did something wrong or, you know, something, whatever they want to do. But we all were interested in the same and kind of feel the same about the event and concentrate our energy collectively on doing something by ourselves. So in this interview, what we're missing now, actually, in this collective documentary, we're missing an interview from the normal people. For example, it will be very interesting to find out how the police officers are making a decision, you know, or how the decision made in a different families, maybe in a patriarchal families, or how decision makes in a school, and talk to the children or talk to the pensioners who is like living in nursery homes or whatever, you know, retirement homes. So that will be like extremely interesting, and that's only possible to do if we have this participation of the people who is not, you know, under the control of somebody who is doing it with some vision, but if it's actually spread around and then could be collected once more time. And the other things, we wrote it in the page. We have a page in the Museum of Color website about this project. It's a special license for everybody who's participating in that documentary. So if you agree to give an interview or film an interview, that means you agree that somebody else, and you don't know who, it's not me and Anka only, but somebody that you never saw and don't know will be able to take your footage, edit it, and put it in and use it for his or her own documentary. But you can do the same. And you accept the risk that this person will do something with your footage that you don't like, as well as they allow you to do the same vice versa. So, and ideally this project will be very cool if we have the collection of documentary from people from different backgrounds, you know, like this kind of famous politician and artists, as well as normal people from very, very different social backgrounds. Yeah, and the last things I want to say, I want to ask Simona, since she's here, if she will be willing to give us an interview, not about her work in GEM25, because actually, like, you know, as much as she wants to do about this, talk about this, but about her general knowledge, because Simona is a scholar, and she was really like amazed me with quoting a lot of amazing amount of anarchist literature that personally I didn't read most of that. So I would be very interested to take an interview tomorrow at 1 o'clock if you have time, and I will invite everybody else to join if it's possible.
Okay. Well, you asked me whether I wanted to speak about the N25 organization once, and I was doubtful because actually what I like to speak about, what's interesting for me is always the negative part of stuff, the criticism, what doesn't work, because I think what doesn't work is also what teaches us something. But I cannot criticize an organization of which I sit in the most important council outside. I'm quite critical inside, but I don't think it's fair to discuss it outside the organization itself. Nevertheless, the way we tried to organize DM25 and the reason behind this structure are quite interesting. So I think we could discuss this part openly, and then I don't want to be recorded if we have it, the part where I criticize. I tell me if ever we do get to this part. As for the theory, Well, the collective decision making has been my main point of interest since always. I studied Spinoza and on a Althusserian point of view, and so I can also make a lot of theory, but I don't like theory detached from the practical things. I can suggest some other people for interviews. I think if he can speak English, a friend of mine who lives in Naples and worked with De Magistris, who was the major of Naples, at drafting statutes for the spazi liberati, that is the freed spaces of Naples. Could be very interesting. The freed spaces are former squattered spaces. We in Italian we call it occupati, occupied. Occupied spaces that were legalized by the major through a quite interesting legal system and through a collective decision making of people from Naples. So I suggest to interview this guy if he can speak English, what I'm not sure of.
That's another question. We should take an interview in Italian if we find somebody who knows that, and try to put subtitles, because if it will be English centered, that's not there. Also will be very specific of the world.
I'm sure he can speak French. And
set up the interviews. Then you and Nico could find out people you'd like to talk with, and that'd be great. And I'd love to be part of to listen to these interviews.
But Simona, can we do it? I'm sorry, I just wanted to invite people who's here. If we can do it tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Okay, it's possible.
Yeah, I will send an invitation.
London time.
Yeah, London time, 1 o'clock. That's Saturday. I suggest we just do, so at least I able to do interviews on Saturday, 1 o'clock, and I will set this time apart. So whoever have time to join for the collective documentary, I don't know if Anka, then we can do it Saturday. I will try to keep the pace and do it every Saturday, 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, great. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock GMT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we should also announce it on the mailing list. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Now we're 10 through the meeting. So I would like to do a call for announcements. What new projects or rooms would you like to announce at next Friday's assembly? Would anyone like to do that? I remember a couple of people had that. So David, DVD, how would you like?
Yeah, I mean, I want to announce sort of a project that I've been working on for a long time, but I think would work well and help out, and people would be interested in, as a distributed library project. There's a lot of great resources that folks have mentioned. There's room for more ways of distributing those resources. And a lot of folks have like personal Google Drive caches of PDFs. There's one I saw in a meeting a while back that had a whole bunch of Spinoza in it, and I was thrilled to find a bunch of PDFs that I could read about Spinoza in it. So like my project is my project. Other people have their library projects, and I want to figure out like a meta project to align various people's library curation.
Awesome. Now who's next? I believe Gabi wanted to speak as well.
Going to say two things. Steve wanted to had to give us this very quick update on what we're doing at Rooms Group, and yeah, me and Yash, we have a proposal for a room, and it's exciting. But yeah, after Steve.
All right. Yeah, I wanted just to give a quick update. There was a meeting on the 12th of, I believe, what was formerly or perhaps even currently known as the Group Dynamics group. And
No.
oh, do you mean about the physical spaces? Oh, okay.
Rooms group.
The rooms group. So we're working on putting together an idea about having physical spaces for the Museum of Care. And so we'll be contacting people who have expressed an interest in participating in that, either by offering up a space, a physical space that could be a room. So we'll be reaching out to people who have already made such an offer, and if anyone wants to help in us putting together and synthesizing all of that information, we'll be doing that as well. So reach out to any of us if you're interested. And if you, like I said, if you've already expressed an interest, you may be getting an email from me or from Gabby. Thanks.
Wonderful. Would anyone else like to go, or are we going to the next thing? All right. So, and finally, well, not finally, actually, reading group announcement for the next assembly.
Oh, okay. Could I quickly announce like the room that Gabby and I are working on?
Please go for it.
Sure. So real quick, yeah. So basically, yeah, we have been discussing magic every so often, on and off. So our idea is an evil eye room, or an anti-evil eye room, so that we can all protect ourselves that way, you know. And I think it's a great combination. We've been coming up with all sorts of ideas. You know, you can take your favorite philosopher, cut up their eyes, and put them in your wallet, and that way we protect it. That's one idea. Beyond sure, yeah, if you want to focus on like just dead philosophers or like living ones, or like, you know, it could be mystics, like Hermes Trismegistus, anyone who you want, really. So that's the idea. We're working on it. We'll flesh it out and tell more next Friday or at the next assembly.
We were thinking about doing it on Discord.
Yeah.
Nika?
Very exciting. Very exciting. David has a magic book cabinet, so I should just contribute the list of books and the images.
Absolutely. That would be amazing. Yeah, no, it's
We
going to
can
be
make an artwork of all the eyes of the people that are on our side. It came from this, like after the Zoom bombing last week, and we were like, God, are we being evil-eyed or something? So we're like, oh, we're so outside now on the web, so maybe we should protect ourselves somehow.
I am so glad you interjected so you could get in that announcement. All right. If there's nothing else and people can interrupt me, then we will have a reading group announcement for the next assembly. I believe that is Vasily.
Yeah. Hello. I guess Nika, you want to say something, because you're the one suggesting that we actually postpone our next session to read something else.
Yeah, because you propose this chapter in David's book. Basically, we talk for weeks now about decision-making process, and I think maybe it will be smart to switch on a reading group with something that would be also can give us food for the thoughts, as we say in Russian. Maybe you talk about this chapter in David's book, because.
Well, no. Well, I think it's a bit of a pity not to finish the art world thing, but maybe we can postpone it and talk about it later. In the democracy project, there is a chapter specifically about consensus decision making. Chapter 4. I don't remember the title. Maybe it's called How Things Change or something. The first 20 pages are about consensus decision making. So if we want to have a look at it and read it for the next reading group, then why not? Or maybe in 3 weeks 3 week time, so we can finish the art world. So it's yeah, it's up to you, and then I'll change the program accordingly. But we need to announce it a bit in advance, so that everyone has a chance to read it.
Yeah, my train of thought was, since we are not passing on exams, we don't need to, read according to the schedule of university or anything like that. So books just for us fuel for conversations and decisions. So that's mean this is a book that correlate to our current discussion. And also it's a book that would be read by London School of Economic, by Aisha. So it makes sense to kind of, be in sync. Because I think when is the reading group? Do you remember, Vasily? It's soon, I think.
I thought they were reading direct action, but I might be wrong.
In Democracy Project. I don't really know. Yeah, but
okay.
But so
yeah, okay. So the reading group. I'll show the program again. Next one is next week.
Yeah, so next week is a reading group, and I bet people didn't read the third chapter. And for example, I personally, and they put a lot of thought in that, and for now the things that discuss there is not very much in discussion in this particular group in the Museum of Care. So I don't see the reason to read it with in that framework, but we will discuss the decision-making process and formation of the group. And that's what this particular chapter in the whole book is about. So it makes sense to me to read something that will accompany the group dynamic, but I don't know. So maybe we can decide somehow collectively, like how would we do that?
I think that's a decent idea personally. I mean, we can be flexible if it's topical to previous discussions. I wouldn't be against it. We can always get back to that one, of course.
Yeah, it's just a chapter or an article. I don't think anybody would have any objection to it. I don't think it is actually necessary to have some like very strict decision-making process for a reading group.
Okay.
So everybody happy with this? I'll send. I think the Democracy Project is in the library. And we can just read the first 20 pages. I'll share the link to the library again. Yeah, so you'll find the book there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything further on this topic?
When is the next LSE reading group with Aisha? Sorry.
Aisha.
When is the next one?
I don't remember, but maybe
anyone know?
On the Museum of Care mailing list. It's always interesting. They have so much people because they're using LLC framework to distribute information.
In an email, she was saying that she was hoping for January.
Yeah. Oh, I think they don't have actually this precise date. I think they just announced it before. Is it possible? It's like a traveling show, Oops, come over.
Anything further?
I wanted to ask about just one question about Discord. Will we be invited if there's going to be a new server created for Museum of Care? Will we just get the invitation on the main list?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I was also thinking about that. So we had a server that TJ created during the carnival as a chat. and that server calls Carnival. So my idea was just to rename it to Museum of Care, but maybe it's good to, so I personally now, after what happens here, so I personally want to create Museum of Care that I run now. This is my living room. So I create a Museum of Care server, and anybody who wants to be there, go there. Anybody who goes, want to, for whatever reason, want to have their own project, own server, I'm totally happy with that. I will try to link or, do whatever it takes to be in touch and to connect, But my ideal form of working that is good for me, for my soul, is Carnival. And I'm trying to recreate this form with Anka now for the collective documentary, which I started, but hope it will work. And with the Museum of Care Discord, I hope to create this Museum of Care server, maybe Carnival / Museum of Care, because Carnival has for me like this good vibe, as the magic room maybe would acknowledge. Maybe I should put the talisman, how you call it, of Carnival in the Museum of Care magic room. Yeah, that's another thing. Could be like personal talismans for the magic room for everybody who join. Yeah, and then the channels there will be like projects that at least I participate in, or my project. But I'm not against, of course, never anybody else doing their own server and their own rooms, so whatever they want. And luckily, it's very cheap now. So in Discord, we don't need a programmer. We don't need any, fundraising. They already create an infrastructure for us. So I hope it's the right approach. I don't know, John, what do you think about that?
I think that sounds really good, Nika. I think in general, when you have a group of people that adopt a new technology, it's good to have some understandings of how it works and how you create things and what you name them and what have you. But things are worked out as people use it, to be honest. It's in the doing that we work out how we want things to be, and why haven't I been invited to that, and how do I create invitations and all that kind of thing. I guess what I'm saying is there's a limited amount of stuff that we can agree exactly how it's going to work in advance, which is perhaps some of the mechanical things that Greg showed us earlier. And we need to use it and see what we think about it as a group of people, and what we want to see and what the affordances are for what we want to achieve.
Yeah, so I think where we can, I don't know, TJ, can you just send let's just use Carnival. Carnival is a good name. Can we change the name for Museum of Care / Carnival, and then just send an invitation whoever wants to join. And for now, I would suggest we make people who we know personally, not totally new members, but the people who we know personally, we make them administrators in the hope that they're not going to destroy anything. And if the destruction would happen, then we reconsider, as John was saying, we learn on the fly. So, and I just know a bunch of projects that immediately will be there, and then see how it goes.
I personally agree. It has some beautiful magic and history. I would love it to continue personally. Oh, sorry. So anything further that people would like to mention or discuss? Yash, finger up.
So I'd say just this is really quick, and this is by no means ready, but it's just an idea. Some of us are looking into it. Is it's like this project called Hologram by this artist called Cassie Thornton. It's basically it's a wonderful project, and it's inspired by these Greek solidarity clinics. So I'm currently reading a book and feel like it's lots of resonance with what we're doing at Museum of Care. So trying to sort of tease out how some of us we could try try our own hand at creating holograms, and basically it's a way of caring for each other in all dimensions of health, so not just medical, it's emotional health, medical health, and social health, and it's a very collaborative project. So very early stage, and just something I'm thinking about. I'll just drop my email, and if any of you are interested in, like, joining, it would be just great to work together, But yeah, like maybe I'll try to, like, I'm reading a book, I'll finish it off, and then maybe share it with us. We can start thinking about it in the coming weeks. So nothing finalized yet, but I think it would be a great idea to try out.
You mean like make a you mean what, to do a room, also to make one of the reading groups day for that room? I know this book, I read it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I know, it's an amazing one. Yeah, it's so I was thinking of doing a room where we can start by doing some of the workshops she writes in the book, and then maybe like it would be a very long-term project. So in, say, 5-6 months times, we can get to a place where we've done the workshops, and we can actually start, like, creating holograms amongst our own friends, like amongst ourselves or in our own social groups as needed,
But that's actually, we should write to her and tell her,
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna
yeah, hey, like, we're going to do this in Discord based on your book, or join us, like blah blah blah, and just like invite you to the assembly. Let's talk about that on the mailing list, and let's write to her. She's actually quite famous now because it was just on time. Her book was, everybody knows that she's like art world person. So
it's fantastic.
yeah, so it's a great book. Yeah.
That sounds great. Sounds great. Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, we can continue talking on the emails. Yeah, it would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Anything further? That was very exciting. This was a very exciting night full of projects. Does anyone else want to go? All right. Thank you. If there's no one else, then I bid you adieu, and I thank you very much. This was exciting, and I was thrilled to be your facilitator. Thank you very much.
TJ.
Good job, TJ.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.